Space Engineers 2 Vertical Slice 1.2 has been released, and with it comes a bunch of improvements and refinements to the game. To start with, the debug gun now has a model. Previously, the debug gun was just a beam that fired out and destroyed whatever you're looking at, but now, as it has a model, it comes out of the gun. And with that comes all the regular trappings of it being a gun. You can see it has a muzzle flash, you can see it has recoil when I fire, there's a little bit of screen shake, and all the regular things you'd expect with it being a gun. They have said they're going to move the gun more centrally into the screen, so it looks more as if it's pointing directly in front of you as opposed to an angle, but what we've got so far is pretty good. As you can see, on top of the debug gun getting a model, it also has the ability to damage voxels now, as you can see when me shooting the asteroid in front of me. It's also worth mentioning that if I run, the gun gets slightly raised up, and if I go into third person, it also has the same effect there, which is one of many different animations that have been improved in this update. If I go back to first person for a second and then switch to third person, you'll notice that my crosshair is slightly off to the left of my head. And the reason that they've moved the camera slightly to the side is that previously your head obscured what was behind the crosshair, making it difficult to see what you're aiming at without manually adjusting the camera. Now you don't have to have the camera to one side. If you press Alt and V, it moves it back into the middle, and then pressing it again moves it to the other side. So if you want it to be off to the left, you can do that, and switching back between first person and third person remembers the position you last set it to. If I ever use third person in Space Engineers 1, I would always move the camera to the side anyway, so this being default is quite a good quality of life change. Sticking with third person, there's been a bunch of changes to character animations. If I sprint and then jump, you can see that there's a brand new, more exaggerated jumping animation for that. If I jump on the spot, I believe this might be the same animation that was before. It looks slightly different, but that might be due to another thing that we'll talk about in a minute. And if I do the regular run, not the sprinting run, and then jump, this is also a new animation here. So if I sprint, you can see that I do a big long jump. If I walk and jump, I do a slightly less exaggerated jump. And then, standing on the spot, I do a different jump animation as well. Another feature that's been added in this update that's still being worked on is something called inverse kinematics. And this is a feature that makes sure that your feet are always on the ground. As you can see here, I've got my left foot on the ramp and my right foot is on the ground. Before this update, I would have just hovered up in the air slightly and my feet would have been perpendicular to gravity. If I crouch on this catwalk here, you can see that my toe is pointing the ground on my right foot and my left foot is off the catwalk or on the ground. Again, previously I would have just been floating up above the catwalk. And you can get a good example of it here as I toggle the feature on and off, and you can see what a massive difference this makes. But as I mentioned, they're still working on this feature. If I run up this ramp, you can see that the animation looks a little bit odd. I kind of look like I'm sliding up it, if I'm honest. It's really weird. It looks like I'm like moonwalking forward. It's very odd. But as I said, it's not done. They're working on it at the moment, and I'm sure in the future issues like this will be ironed out. They've made some changes in the update to the way the jetpack boost works. Previously, when you turned on your jetpack, the thruster flames would glow blue, and your flight speed would be capped to 20 meters per second. And then, if you press shift, your jetpack will glow orange, and then you'll be able to bypass that limit, going up to the game's maximum speed limit. In the new update, it's been changed. As you can see, I'm flying around and my jetpack is glowing blue, and I'm still limited to 20 meters per second. But now, if I fly forward and then press shift, you can see that the screen shakes, it winds up, and then boom, we're away. And we're able to fly faster than 20 meters per second. So if I do that again, fly forward, then press shift, it winds up, the screen shakes, and then the jetpack goes orange, and you can see on the bottom left, the hydrogen bar goes orange as well to indicate that we're boosting. It's just a small visual change, like many of the things we've shown so far, but it massively changed the feel of the jetpack. And I'm hoping as well, this will be something to deter hydromanning, where the most effective way to take down a ship was just to fly around with a grinder. With this, there's now a wind up to the jetpack, so in theory, it won't be as easy to use it to take down a ship. The paint gun has received a couple of changes. If I go to my wheel and then choose a color, so red, you can see on the top and on the bottom of the gun, it now indicates the color that is picked. And if I paint this block, you can see there is a new animation where the gun points forward to give a more visual indication that you're actually painting blocks. And more importantly, if I press Ctrl Z, I can undo my painting, and I can also press Ctrl Y to bring it back. And like with the debug gun, if I sprint, you can see that there is a new animation for holding the gun while I sprint. And here it is in third person, and this looks way better than it did before, where you just hold the gun out in front of you awkwardly. A real quick one, the shadow is now shown when you're in first person. It was previously turned off as the separation of animations between first person and third person hadn't been set up, but now that they have, they were able to turn the shadow on for first person as well. Also, shadow cable. A new system for controlling ships has been implemented called target-based grid control. Before, when you wanted to move a ship, you had to drag the mouse over and over and over until you got to the right angle. But say I wanted to turn to the right now, I just turn my mouse to the right, and then my ship moves as fast as it can to catch up where I've moved. If I fly around this asteroid here, you can see a much better example of it. I'm turning the mouse just to point where I want to go, and the ship catches up as fast as it can. Which I'm going to be honest, using it for the last couple of minutes, I'm going to crash. It definitely feels like a much more intuitive way to move your ship, especially compared to dragging the mouse over and over. It's better shown on a large ship. As you can see, I want to face this solar panel, so I point my cursor at the solar panel, and then the ship slowly moves as fast as it can in order to face that direction. But now say I want to turn around and face the blue ship. I move my cursor over to the blue ship, and then watch as my ship slowly turns to face it. But now if we wanted to cut this ship in half, as they always do in the cinematics, pointing at the spine, I'm going to boost forward, and eventually we're going to hit it and cut it in half, hopefully. Well, if I remove this block here, we did it! Yay! You've heard some of them already, but they've added a bunch of new sounds to Space Engineers 2. If I crash into the base and slowly slide along the surface, you can hear the sound of scratching metal as I go along. There was new sounds for the debug gun that you heard earlier, and there was also new sounds for voxel destruction. And if I fly this mining ship up to the mountain, there's also new sounds for drills as well. And I'm going to be honest, they sound real good. If I take a listen without actually drilling the voxel, you can hear they've got the new whir up sounds. And if I turn them off, there's also a gradual sound for them spinning down as well. There's also new sounds for clicking things in the inventory. If I start typing at the top, you can hear that it plays a sound for every letter that I type in. If I get the paint gun back out, there's sounds for clicking buttons in here, which there previously wasn't, this was just silent. So very similar to the new animations they've added, they've also added a bunch of sounds to lots of different places of the game, probably way more than I've just showcased there. So they've made some visual tweaks to the way partial copy appears. So if I start a new partial copy on this thruster here, you can see that the box is there. And previously this was a yellow box, and now it's a clear white-grey box, which is much clearer to see. And you can see that the edges are much clearer to find in orange. And if I expand this box, it's much easier to see what you're actually copying. And I think I've got this whole thruster copied. So if I now go, there you go. I've got a little bit of the ship, but I can remove that later. But at least for me, that was much easier to visualize and copy that thruster compared to how it worked previously. I don't know if this is a new sound, but it sounds new. The reactor humming, I don't remember it doing this before. Even if this isn't new, I really like this sound. It sounds great. You can now switch between your toolbars by holding Control and Out and then scrolling on your scroll wheel. You can see I'm rapidly able to change between them. I don't know if I'd necessarily use this. I'm not really a big user of all 9 toolbars. Normally use the first 3 and then forget about the rest. But this does mean that you can change between all 9 toolbars without taking your hand off the keyboard as you'd have to do previously. This wasn't listed directly in the changelog, I've just found this whilst I've been playing. If I remove this block, you can see that there is an animation for creative mode removing a block, where it kind of gets like sucked into a singularity. It's actually really cool. And it perfectly matches with the sound effect as well. It's like the zoom of the sound effect with the animation. That's actually really cool. It's like I'm using my godly powers to suck it into my backpack. I really like that. And whilst it wasn't part of this update, it was instead part of last week's weekly update. These grated catwalk stairs were recently added as well. And I have to say, they look way better than they did in Space Engineers 1. I guess everything does, but I never fail to be blown away. And also with everything in Space Engineers 1, they look so good when they're destroyed. Look, destroying this part of the stair makes it physically impossible to climb it. Destruction is so good in Space Engineers 2. There's also been a bunch of performance improvements in this update, and there's also probably a couple of other features that I've missed. So if you want to check out everything added in this update, I will link the full changelog in the description below. The next Space Engineers 2 update is going to focus on modding, so I'm sure we'll be looking at that very soon. And additionally, we were also told that the next Space Engineers update is only a few weeks away, so I'm sure soon there'll be some teasers for us to look at as well. So if you want to keep up to date with everything coming to both games, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel. And 3, 2, 1, break it down. Yeah, that's right. I've got my emotes now, baby. The power I have. T-pose to assert dominance.